Welcome to the Isodrones 360-degree interactive research site. Costa Rica, 10.71 degrees north, minus 85.59 west. We are above a forest that has been designated by the government as a national park for dry forest research. Despite its image as a rainforest paradise, a substantial part of Costa Rica, the Guanacaste Peninsula in the northwest, is semi-arid. For a period of up to 5 months, not a single drop of rain falls, causing a challenge for people, plants, and animals. A challenge that will likely be more difficult in the future. The Estación Experimental Forestal Horizontas is a forest research and management station dedicated to the preservation and regeneration of highly endangered and valuable dry forest habitats. Here, the core research site of the Isodrones project is situated. Isodrones, led by principal investigator Dr. Matthias Bayer, is a research group dedicated to develop and apply innovative methods to study the water cycle. Its main focus is on combining water-stable isotope methods, eco-hydrological approaches, and drones in order to investigate water uptake strategies of trees. The experimental site was nested into 3 levels of detail for our investigations. A small core area around each plot where 3 to 5 individuals per species are equipped with measuring devices for recording continuous data on the tree water status. This core area is embedded into a larger area where a number of parameters, but at a lower degree of detail, are measured for more individuals of each species of interest. Finally, there is a larger area covering the complete study area. This area is only monitored by drone overflights, which form a central part of the Isodrones project, as the name implies. As you may have already realized, right now we're looking at the site during the dry season. Now, let's touch down and take a closer look at the research site. Welcome to the jungle. This is no ordinary jungle. In months of work, we have built the caseta, dug holes in the ground, set up monitoring plots, climbed trees, installed solar panels and cables, and equipped trees with sensors for long-term data logging. Our research here focuses on the tree species Caúba and Tempisca, extremely valuable and endangered dry forest trees. Caúba is semi-deciduous, which means it sometimes loses its leaves during the dry season. Tempisca is evergreen. This spot will serve as our orientation point for the following tour. You'll have the opportunity to move around more or less freely and take a closer look at different areas. The caseta is our center of intelligence. During the various research trips, this little inconspicuous wooden hut has hosted a large array of high-tech research equipment. It was built in only 2 days in a joint effort of the forest workers employed here and our Isodrones team. And because colours make life better, our caseta got some beautiful paintings done by a Latin artist from Team Isodrones. Here, inside the caseta, all threads come together. During our first field campaign, this was the home of our water isotope laser, which we used to analyse water-stable isotope samples in soil and tree water directly in the field. To find out more about our in-situ isotope measurements, make sure you watch the Water Isotope Analyzer video. The small silver case houses our data logger. Multiple times per hour, we collect recordings of 30 sap flow sensors, 10 stem moisture sensors, and 25 soil moisture sensors, as well as temperature data for the collaboration of UAV thermal images. Over time, this accumulates to a huge amount of data that helps us to interpret what our trees are doing. Directly behind the caseta, we've excavated a soil profile to be able to monitor soil moisture and soil water isotopes at different depths. Jump inside and join spiders, snakes and scorpions down there, if you dare, and see which data we're recording here. In the silver insulated tubes, water vapour from different soil depths is transported to the water isotope analyzer inside the cassette. The other cables belong to sensors measuring soil moisture. In 2019, we measured soil water content and its water-stable isotopes for almost 3 months. At the end of the dry season, we irrigated the soils around our target trees with tap water and water labelled with heavy hydrogen isotopes. You find the timing, amount and isotope values of the water added in the top panel. Below, the reaction of the labelled irrigation events, both in the water content and isotope values, are shown. When the rainy season starts and water infiltrates into the soil, the isotope value is reset and homogenized across all soil depths. Because water is essential for photosynthesis and nutrient uptake, the trees need to develop strategies to deal with the annually returning dry season. And that's where our research comes in. We are in a dry forest, but that does not mean that it never rains here. Quite the contrary, actually. Between May and December, about 1.6 litres per square metre of rain fall from the sky. That is more than twice the mean annual rainfall in Germany. Here on the Cassetta rooftop, you can enjoy a premium overview and observe the Isodrones team at work. This also beams you into the beginning of the wet season. Look at this lush vegetation. The scenery changes completely. Now it's time for the trees to soak up as much water as they can from the ground while converting CO2 into biomass in their leaves. Who will be the winner of this never-ending race? The evergreen trees like the Tempisca that can also take up water and photosynthesize in the dry season. Or deciduous species like the caoba that literally explodes as soon as the rain enters the stage. Or some understory shrub or liana. And just like the jungle, also Team Isodrones is bustling. Isodrones PhD student Malkin Gierchow is preparing his favourite tool, the UAV, for an overflight. The DJI Matrice 200 V2 quadcopter is equipped with an RGB, a thermal and 2 multispectral cameras. Hang on to watch him starting the flight. He'll be able to closely monitor the drone's execution of the pre-programmed flight plan via the live view on the monitor of the remote control. Meanwhile, PhD student Alberto Irahita is doing what earned his nickname La Maquina for sampling 25-metre high tree branches for further measurement using a pole pruner. He's the undisputed expert in operating the long pole while balancing on tree branches several metres above ground. Additionally, he also measures and records canopy parameters for further reference. PhD student Catherine Kuhnhammer can be seen busy checking some tree sensors. If you haven't done so already, you can find in-depth information on the sensors that we use and the data we collect in the caoba and the Tempisca scenes. Welcome to the caoba plot. This is one of the 2 core plots where we investigate a specific tree species in detail, the caoba tree, Swietenia macrophylla. This beautiful and rare mahogany species behaves facultatively deciduous in this dry forest. This means when it gets too dry, it will drop its leaves. Within the broad variety of tree species, there are 2 big categories of behaviours. Those that regularly lose their leaves, for example, before winter comes, or during the dry season. They are called deciduous, and those that have green leaves throughout the year, independent of the season, are called evergreens. These trees do also exchange their leaves, but usually not all at once. If you look at the canopy of the caoba tree, you can see that only a few leaves are left. In comparison, the Tempisca trees that you can see on the other side of the caseta show a different behaviour. Here, 3 to 5 individuals of this species are equipped with measuring devices for recording continuous data on the tree water status. Let's look at some actual data recorded in 2019. At the top, you see the water input. In orange are irrigation events, and in blue, the first natural precipitation events at the onset of the rainy season. For the caoba trees, we clearly found the signal of the labelled irrigation in the tree xylem. Especially the laterally extending roots showed a strong impact. We can also see that the sap flow increased rapidly after the irrigation. This shows that caoba is heavily dependent on shallow roots. Welcome to the Tempisca plot. Tempisca, Sideroxylin capiri, a rubber tree species, is one of the 2 main species that we observe in greater detail. It is evergreen and keeps its leaves even during severe droughts. Yearly foliage exchange happens during the rainy season and is seemingly not induced by soil-water deficit. For researchers looking for deep roots, this seems like an obvious suspect. The Tempisca tree is locally known as the guardian of the river. During our species selection process, locals told us that this tree is known to have very deep roots. But can we prove it? Here you are standing in front of the Tempisca plot, and the individual right in front of you is the biggest we are monitoring, T1. Look to the sky and observe how different the canopy is under the lush green crowns of Tempisca in comparison to the trees on the caoba plot. The data you see here shows the reaction of the investigated Tempisca trees to our labelled irrigation and to the following onset of the rainy season back in 2019. You might have noticed that the Tempisca trees, in contrast to caoba, were not really impressed by the fact that we added water to their topsoil. We only found the label in one tree, and the impact was only briefly. Also, sap flow, the amount of water used by the tree, did not increase in response to the irrigation. However, there was still a notable amount of water used by these trees. This suggests that the Tempisca trees do not really rely on shallow roots. Likely, they have root systems extending deep into the soil to depths where the water is still available and less impacted by the annual cycle of wetting and drying. This is further supported by the fact that the tree uses almost constant amounts of water over the year, regardless of the environmental conditions. This is another clear indication that the Tempisca is using deeper seated water. A key job of the workers of EEFH during the dry season is spotting fires and fighting them off in order to protect the dry forest. And there is no better spot for that than up here. A large part of the experimental dry forest can be overlooked from here. Impressive how many trees remain green during this extreme dryness. In the back, you can see the volcano Rincon della Vigía. If you look down, you can see a key place of action at EEFH, the soccer pit. Every day at 5 p.m, a loud voice yells out, "Mehenya!" Time for the daily soccer game. The tower is also a great place to get some quiet time, usually a rare thing in intense field campaigns.